there, as mentioned previously, there is the option of sheriff sale, but sheriff sale does not guarantee remediation of the property. Sheriff sale is a process from filing the case to getting a new owner that can take a year and a half. So the question is, can the property wait that long as an attractive nuisance to any and all comers? I think we heard about a trespasser that came just the other day to the property to try to get into it. Can it wait that long? And like I said, there is no guarantee and there's nothing that we can do to make somebody that bids on a sheriff sale property remediate the property. So it could still remain in the same state despite that type of sale.
Thank you. And we appreciate you allowing, we deferred this application for a month. We deliberated on it at length at the last meeting. We appreciate you getting as much property access as possible for the staff and the inspectors. It was very helpful. I will just reiterate to the commission, we're here. This is one part of getting, if we deny the demolition request, it could be appealed and move forward to city council, at which point some of these other items could be taken into consideration. And so just, again, I think as a commission, we tend to look at these with demolition, how we look at all the other applications. And while this may be a code enforcement City of New Orleans applicant, that we look at it in the same way we would look at any application that we look for any citizen in New Orleans. So I just want to remind everyone of that as we move forward. This is in the Irish Channel. I wanted to ask one question real quick. Are there any public comments on this application? No, there's no public comment. At the last hearing, we did have immediate neighbors from either side. I will say there was a split and we do have a number of comments that were.
Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate, there were a large number of comments that were submitted that are included in your meeting.
Correct. There's a number, a lot of public comment that has occurred on this application that I don't know that we had in the record in the last month. So, and I will state again, we had two neighbors the last time they were split. So I think we've heard quite a few public comment on this one. Commissioner Bressler, did you have a question?
Yeah, I guess, why do you think it was not declared in imminent danger of collapse?
I am not certain, not being a structural engineer of any kinds.
I mean,
So I'm not exactly sure what elements, we do have sign off for imminent danger conditions from safety and permits. And from the building inspectors there that do have that type of expertise.
is that the same thing as code enforcement or?
No, it's
No.
not. Code enforcement deals with more of the elements of minimum property maintenance standards that you can see with your eye and be trained to see. And the stuff that safety and permits deals with is more of the things that you would need to be an architect or some type of structural engineer to be aware of.
And isn't there some type of quick sale that could be done that wouldn't take a year and a half with the sheriff or no?
It's not, the process is not quick, particularly not when the owner is deceased. And therefore we have to kind of do our due diligence to find out what heirs she has out there. Oftentimes people say, hey, you have no children, you have no heirs. In Louisiana, that's certainly not true. Your parents can take your property, your siblings, your nieces and nephews by representation. All of those people in the course of a lawsuit we would have to make a due diligence to find them and to have them represented by a curator. That takes time. And then, like I said, given that there has been no succession open for the decedent, that also means that we do not have, it has not been being charged property taxes either. I might try to do something about that, but there's no other avenue in terms of trying to get this property, say by tax sale, get it into other hands. That wouldn't work either because of the fact that it is exempt from taxes.
And a number of these comments, just to reiterate again, we get requests for demolition because an applicant wants to take the building down so they have, they can build 2 homes on a piece of property, whatever it may be. There's a number of economic considerations that go into a request for demolition. And we hear that and we do realize this case is coming through the City of New Orleans. I just ask that the commission, as a reminder that everyone remembers that we should treat this application like any other demolition and try to look at it through that lens and hopefully not consider the economic components that are in this application as well.
Is it true that we don't have standing when the city is the applicant?
What do you mean?
We're making a recommendation, not.
No, this is not a
It
city
is not.
property. It's just code enforcement is the applicant.
That just to the public that's watching, that happens if it was Sewage and Water Board came in front of us with an application recently and one in which we do not, and that's usually noted in the staff report. To the staff, I would ask, can you clarify just why this one came in front of us further so that it comes from our staff?
Sure. And this is one of the things that we discuss at the staff level. We get a lot of applications for properties that are obviously blighted like this one, that may be a public nuisance, that there's squatters or, various quality of life issues that are involved. And so our inspector goes out, does an inspection, and determined in this case that it is not in imminent danger of collapse. And we try to be very serious about that definition. If it's an imminent danger of collapse, staff can authorize the immediate demolition of it along with safety and permits. However, like I said, we take that very seriously, and we feel like if it is not literally an imminent danger of collapse, it's our responsibility to bring it before this body so that that's the way it's lined up so that the commission can make that decision. We're not saying the building isn't in very bad condition, but we just don't think it's about to fall down from our perspective.
Thank you. Commissioner Hackenberg, this is in Irish Channel.
Yes,
wanted to make-
yes, it is. And this is a terrible situation. I can all agree with that. I feel terrible for the neighbors who have to deal with this every day. But based on the reporting of the staff, the building is in reasonable structural condition, that it could be rehabbed. And I think for us to approve demolition of it, it's problematic. I thoroughly understand the neighborhood. But if we're going to start using the criteria of the building being a public nuisance as our criteria, I don't think we can do that. I think this is one we should make our vote. The city can appeal it to the city council, where the city council certainly can consider that. So my motion would be to deny the demolition.
Thank you, Commissioner Hackenberg. Is there a second to that motion? Commissioner Love, thank you. Is there any additional commissioner comment on this application? Commissioner Bruno? Oh, can you turn your mic on, Doris?
Can you explain to me
Thank you.
what would happen if the building were demolished? What would happen to the vacant lot if there's no owner?
I'm gonna direct, I think Commissioner Bruno, let's direct that question to the staff.
Okay.
What, you want to repeat your question?
Yes, what would happen to the vacant lot if the building were demolished? Who would be taking care of it?
Well, it would be under the ownership of the property owner, and I guess they would either redevelop it or sell it.
But they're deceased apparently.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm not a lawyer. I don't know, that probate law. I'm
What
sorry.
is this? What is the strategic demolition folks? What is their perspective on that?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that? Is that for me?
Yeah,
Okay.
what would happen to the vacant lot? If you if you get permission to demolish the building, who takes care of the vacant lot since the owner is deceased?
Okay, so different things can happen. What we always try to do is pass on the cost of the actual demolition against the property. So we would have a hearing to impose a lien based on our demolition cost. We do have, and we most likely, if we did not see, now sometimes after we do a demolition, that is the major obstacle and the major cost obstacle for the family. Sometimes people show up, you'd be surprised. But if they do not, then we would eventually take the property to sheriff's sale if payment wasn't made on that lien, that demolition lien, because it would be a larger number than just an average fine. And then at that point, it would be sold to a third party who hopefully would take care of it. Or of course, we would have to impose more fines. In the event that it is a vacant lot as well, the city does have an abatement program and different programs that involve the care of lots. And so that could also be something that could happen as well.
Does the city have any programs that would board up the building?
We have been exploring the idea of having such a program be staffed in the future and budgeted in the future. So there's not something currently where we have a vendor that does boarding, but it is something that we have spoken about because we understand that there may be a need for it. It's just not something that we have had in the recent past.
I have a question for
Commissioner Bruno. Oh, who's your commissioner? What's your question for?
Commissioner Hackenberg.
Okay,
Is the Irish Channel Neighborhood Association aware of this house? And have they made any efforts towards doing anything about it?
I am not familiar if any efforts have been made on that behalf. The Irish Channel Neighborhood Association usually does not take positions on land use. That's just one of the peculiarities of that particular neighborhood group. But again, I mean, hearing from the neighbors, I think they probably, many of them are in the same mind, that this is a nuisance property.
And just as a comment to this as well, often when we approve a demolition, it varies depending on which one, how significant the deterioration is on the building. But often if we did approve a demolition, we request that we have plans in place for the new construction, because often vacant lots are a nuisance to the neighborhood as well. And so that is something that we often talk about here too. And then just as a reminder to the commissioners, I would like to, once we have a motion on the floor and a second, if we can keep the conversation inside the commissioners, and there could be some to the staff, but we are no longer asking questions of the applicant, just because we have a motion and a second on the floor.
Okay, I was about to say, I believe we do have a motion and a second. on
We
the-
do, and I was not able to curb that fast enough, but just want to remind everyone as we move forward, just, you know, Robert's Rules of Order here, if we can keep that, that would be great. Okay, so we do have a motion on the floor and we have a second. I'm going to call the vote. All those in favor? All those opposed? The motion carries unanimously. Your application has been denied by the HDLC Commission. You have 10 calendar days from the date of this meeting to appeal to the City Council in writing. The staff will furnish you with the details of the appeals process.
Thank you for your time, guys.
Thank you. Thank you for your time as well. And good luck with the project, or good luck with the building. Okay, item 3301 Magazine Street. Is the applicant present? Please state your name and address for the record.
Stephen Bellflower, 1824 Murray Street.
Thank you. We saw you at the last meeting as well, so welcome back. Staff, if you can make your presentation, please.
This is an application for the demolition of more than 50% of the roof of a non-contributing rated one-story commercial building in partial control garden district. At last month's meeting, the commission voted to defer action on this application until the next meeting to encourage the applicant to meet with local neighbors and adjacent property owners about the proposed work. Following the previous meeting, the applicant reviewed the proposed demolition and renovation work with representatives from the Garden District Association. The GDA subsequently provided a written letter of support for the application based on this meeting, and revisions made to the design of the proposed addition. The applicant is still requesting to demolish 100% of the existing roof to accommodate a new rooftop and rear addition. Based on the building's age, its lack of historic building fabric, and its non-contributing rating, staff has no objection to the partial roof demolition request.
Thank you. This application was heard at last month's meeting. As the staff noted, we made a motion to defer this application to give the applicant time to meet with the neighborhood group. Thank you for doing that. It seems like it was fruitful. And they did submit a letter in support of the application as well. I do want to ask, is there any public comment on this application? There is no public comment to the applicant. Do you wish to address the commission?
Yeah, so y'all asked that we meet with the neighborhood. The meeting was productive. And while the design of this building is not under consideration before this commission, we are working with the neighborhood, and it's something that's more traditionally styled. And the neighborhood association has agreed that any design comments that they have, we would continue to address and work with them as part of the design advisory committee hearing, which we'll be participating in on January 18th.
Thank you. And again, this is in the Garden District, which is partial district and only reviews demolition. Commissioner Bressler.
Yeah, are y'all still gonna sell seafood out of here? Are y'all still gonna sell seafood from here?
Oh, yes, the signs will be remaining. No.
Commissioner Bressler, we don't have control over use. Got it. Commissioner Red, this is in your district.
Yes, can you hear me? I just want to say thank you very much for agreeing to meet with the Neighborhood Association, who, as you know, is very involved in neighborhood issues. Thank you to any neighbors who attended those meetings as well. I was glad to hear that you all had such a productive and cordial meeting and that you came to some agreement. And so with that said, I would move for approval for the application.
Commissioner Red made the motion. Commissioner Bressler seconds. Is there any additional commissioner comment on this application? No additional comment. All those in favor? All those opposed? The motion carries unanimously. Thank you and good luck with your project. New business demolition applications, item A 3941 Allard Boulevard. This application has been withdrawn. Item B 8829 8831 Jeanette Street. Is the applicant present? Hi, please step forward, state your name and address for the record.
Archie Jefferson, 6008 Aaron Drive, New Orleans, Louisiana.
Thank you. The staff will make their presentation and you will hear your comments following.
Okay.
This is an application for demolition of a contributing rated one-story, two-family residential building to grade in partial control Carrollton. A FEMA survey research indicates the original building was estimated to have been constructed between 1900 and 1910, and the building first appears on the 1909 Sanborn map as one of the earliest constructed residences in the surrounding blocks. Two later additions added to the rear were constructed following publication of the 1951 Sanborn maps. The historic portion of the home is wood framing, primarily constructed of barge board set on brick masonry piers. The later non-historic additions are stick framing. Considering the barge board construction of the original structure, construction may predate the date estimated by FEMA. The one-story Italianate shotgun appears to retain original octagonal shingles on its gable, two brick masonry chimneys, and a partial Chinese cap, historic window casings, and trim. The original wood siding still exists beneath later aluminum siding, although the original siding was likely removed on the building's facade when the brick veneer was added. The original gable window, which has fallen from its place, rests on the porch roof and may be salvageable for replacement. HDLC inspector performed an exterior and interior visual inspection on December 8th, 2022, and found the building to be in poor condition, but not in imminent danger of collapse. In the historic portion of the building, structural elements such as decking, rafters, and floor joists appear to be in good condition. The historic home retains its scale, massing, siding, and roof form. As far as staff recommendations go, as the building has maintained several of its original character defining details, including window casings, brick chimneys, and octagonal shape. Although the building is in poor condition, the main historic portion of the home appears to be structurally sound and was not found to be in imminent danger of collapse by the inspector. For this reason, staff cannot recommend approval of the demolition of the historic portion of the building at this time. The two non-historic additions at the building's rear, which are in great disrepair, should be removed, but rehabilitation of the contributing portion of the building is likely reasonable. Exploratory demolition of the interior plaster, drywall, and rotted subflooring would help determine more about the building's condition and potential for its rehabilitation. In order to prevent further deterioration, staff recommends immediate removal of vegetation, properly tarping the roof to reduce water infiltration, and boarding of windows as per HDLC guidelines. Overall, staff recommendation would be approval of the rear demolition with exploratory interior demolition of the historic front portion of the building.
Thank you. So the applicant, do you wish to address the commission?
Yeah, we're looking at the same building. Cause
We
that building, I mean, I went in, I'm the contractor, general contractor. Mr. Reginald Brown is the owner of it. But I mean, I went through, I had to come out because we were just falling through the floor in this place. And I pointed that out to the inspector. But I don't know which portions of the structural that he saw that was salvaged, you know, that
So
you could salvage because everything in here was, and code enforcement, by the way, the reason he called because code enforcement gave him 30 days prior to my making an application for demolition to have the building demolished. So he is actually in a hearing with code enforcement and pending this hearing for demolition. They gave him 30 days to demo the building. And I don't know what time that was. I think it's probably a few days from now. But because we had to come to this meeting, then I think it was put on hold. That's what they told me they would do. So I don't know. We seem to have a little conflict here going on with code enforcement.
we'll address that in
HDLC.
we'll address that in just a minute.
Yeah.
You have 1 minute remaining.
Right. And but as far as I can see, structurally, from my perspective. There's no way you can really save this unless you put like really a lot of money that he doesn't have. This came to him by act of donation from his father, who was very poor health and everything and couldn't keep it up. That's why it's in the condition that it's in right now.
Well, we appreciate you being here to represent the application and also taking great care to go through the process with this. I would, just to clarify with the staff, I'll let the staff clarify the difference between code enforcement and HDLC for the public.
Yeah, I just wanted to note that, oftentimes in cases in an attempt to remediate a blight, the administrative adjudication hearing officer will state that, they have an order for demolition, and that does not mean they're requiring them to demolish the building. What they are requesting is that they remediate the blight, and you can remediate blight through demolition or through rehabilitation. So he's not being required to demolish his property, and that's often a point of confusion for people who get that order from one of the hearing officers. But really, basically what the Department of Code Enforcement is looking for is remediation of the blighted condition, one way or the other.
Absolutely. And it is generally, it's usually taken as a strong, please pay attention to this. And you come forth to the adjudication process, but yeah, it is not a request for demolition.
Well, I understand what you're saying, but their instructions to him was to have it demolished by a certain period of time. I don't know if you have that information on the letters, but Daniel told me that they would get that information and have it available when we got to the meeting here. I don't know that.
So again, just to the commissioners, what's in front of us today is a application to request the demolition of the property, not because it is being requested by code enforcement.
No, not because it's requested.
No, that is not what's in front of
Well,
us.
it is and it isn't, but they did it. I knew when I applied for the new permit that HDLC would come into play because it's in the historic district. So I understand.
There can be some confusion there, but that is not what's in front of us in terms of an application today.
I do understand.
I would like to hear from other commissioners here, but I do, again, similar to some of the other demolitions we reviewed, and we'll continue to review on this docket, and every month. We look at all of these with great care, and we do look to the staff. We appreciate that you were willing to let the inspector visually inspect both the exterior and the interior of the property. That staff report is online and was submitted both to all of us to review and was sent, I assume, to you,
To me.
as well as to any other applicant that's attached to the HDLC application. So with that, I just want to make sure we're really clear on this. Can we scroll up just to review the different sections of the building for everyone? So there's the rear portion, which the staff is recommending demolition. And then there's the interior, the original portion of the building. I don't know if maybe are there floor plans, or is it?
I just submitted the new floor plans, not any of the whole floor plans now. But essentially on this wall to the right, if you're facing the building, there are no 2x4s, anything. You have the old planks running up there that were totally termite infested.
Yeah, so
And that whole side to the right there, where you see the blue tarp, if you could, that's the left. You had to go to the other side now, and
absolutely. I think we're clear on what we're looking at here.
Okay.
But I just want to make sure, just as a visual for everyone, that was a great photo to look at, just because it shows the rear addition, plus I believe it's 3 rooms deep in terms of the original historic structure. We do have public comment on this application, and I'll call to see if there's any additional public comment. Susan Johnson. Please step forward, state your name and address for the record.
Susan Johnson, 2822 LePage Street. I'm not paid to be here. I oppose this demolition on principle only. I'm not familiar with the property. I don't have any relationship to it. But wait a second. I know, like the context of this neighborhood there's a great deal of development going on by the usual suspects. And I realize that this is not part of that picture. I'm just making a statement on the preservation of historic fabric. And I don't expect it to be determinative. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. I've got a couple, everyone up here has wanted to talk. So Commissioner Bressler, do you have anything to ask?
Yeah, I guess it seems like I'm confused about code enforcement and whether they're telling you to tear it down or whether they're telling you to remediate the property, and tearing it down as an option.
Wait.
So maybe the thing to do, is to defer this a month, let code enforcement do what they're gonna do, and then we'll know what they're saying, because
Commissioner Bressler, this happens all the time. This is common in the code enforcement. What generally happens when you get a code enforcement notice. I've attended a number of these as well with clients, and highly encourage anyone, Commission, if you haven't, it really helps you know the delineation between the two. As the staff has stated, they're not being requested by the city of New Orleans to demolish the structure. The application that's in front of us is from the applicant to demolish the structure.
no, I understand that, but the applicant is saying that that's not what code enforcement is telling him, which may or may not be the case. And I guess I'll ask the applicant, would you prefer to withdraw this for a month and find out what code enforcement is saying, whether it's what staff is saying or not, because it sounds like they might.
And it sounds like a conflict to me too, because what we're saying, code enforcement said at their meetings, because we've been to several, is that they gave us a deadline to take it
Right, no, I
completely
understand that.
down. And then when
I know, but
applied for the permit,
we
of course, this is when it came to play with HCLC.
Commissioner Bressler, we do have that information in front of us from the staff right now. And I am going to reiterate again that it is very clear. We hear this all the time. We get this all the time when properties that are in serious need of remediation, serious need of attention. They get code enforcement comes by, they put a notice on the door and tell them to do the work. They start the process of doing the work. They have to come to HDLC. Often the applicants, the contractor, whomever, in whatever state that the building is in, they say, hey, man, this would be way easier to tear this thing down. Let's apply to demolish it. That is what's in front of us today. I do not want to defer this application. I do not think we should withdraw the application or offer the applicant the option to do that. They've clearly not done any work on this property. As we've seen on other things, when this work does not get done, there are storms, other things that happen. I would like to see us as the commission uphold having this conversation. I also want to make sure that the commissioners that are present here are fully aware of the difference between code enforcement and HDLC and what we're here to review today, and that they listen to the staff when the staff states that.
I have another question. Now,
Forget
this,
one more
Oh,
question,
okay.
but I have the floor.
okay,
I
I'm
also have
sorry.
a number of commissioners who are asking,
Sorry.
would like to ask you questions as well, or potentially the staff. What is your one question?
No, my apology. Go ahead.
Okay,
I'll wait.
thank
I'll wait for.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. Commissioner Bressler, did we, forgive me, I want to make sure it's really clear as we review demolitions.
crystal clear.
Thank you. I will make sure that we, to the staff, I think we should maybe do some additional training on this, just so that the commissioners are fully aware of the difference between the two. But Commissioner Bruno.
Has the owner given any consideration to selling the property?
He does not want to sell it, but I do not think that, I think that trying to restore the property rather than to demolish it and build a new structure is going to be a lot cheaper for him. And he does not have the means to go into a big thing here, because that's exactly what it would be, just from my 20 years of experience of trying to renovate this. And we do a lot of work in historic district, Algiers and things like that. But it would be definitely a hardship on him to try to do that.
And we hear that often. We are very, we do take that into consideration. We don't take into the financial portion into consideration, but we do review the applications in terms of demolition to demolition equitably. So we cannot take into account the financial component, because we do hear this every time there's a demolition. And respectfully, from any GC that stands in front of us who tells it is much cheaper to tear down a historic property than it is to renovate and maintain historic fabric. So with that, are there any other comments from commissioners or questions? Commissioner Bruno, or this is in Carrollton. Yes, this is in Carrollton, Commissioner Bressler.
And I tried to get this deferred to let these other folks at the agency, speak, but it doesn't sound like that's the case. Now, if we turn this down, again, we're only turning down the front part. We are approving demolition of the back part, 2 parts according to staff solution. But as the chairman will tell you, it is appealable to the city council.
That's
So,
dependent on your motion. Right, you gotta make the motion.
I know.
Yeah.
So I guess we go with the, well, again, this says demolish and staff is recommending partial demolition. How do you,
Make a motion to approve the demolition of the rear structures.
Right.
With a request for retaining the original structure. And working with the staff as the continued interior exploration happens.
that's exactly what I was gonna say.
Wonderful. We have a motion on the floor. Is there a second? Commissioner Love, thank you. Is there any additional comments from commissioners? No additional comments? All those in favor? All those opposed? The motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Your application has been denied by the HDLC Commission. You have 10 calendar days from the date of this meeting to appeal to City Council in writing. The staff will furnish you with the details of the appeals process. Thank you for being here. Thank you for participating in the process and having the conversation. And please work with the staff as you move forward to do renovate the building.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Yes.
I've made a note. There was several comments and questions regarding the various roles of HDLC versus code enforcement. So I'm going to reach out to the director of code enforcement and have either him or a member of his staff at the next hearing to make a brief presentation to the commission, just so there's a better understanding of what their role is and what their expectations would be.
Thank you. I think that'd be really helpful, given we had an application that came in front of us from the city. We have one that's come in front of us now. It's often part of this conversation, but we do want to move your project forward and make sure you can proceed accordingly. So thank you.
All right.
Yeah. All right, old business retention application. Item A, 3704 Coliseum Streets. Is the applicant present? Please step forward, state your name and address for the record.
Nicole Weber, 2131 Bienville Street.
Thank you, Ms. Weber.
This is an application for the retention of demolition of a contributing rated 1-story accessory structure to grade and deviation of a C of A in partial control garden district. This application was also deferred at last month's meeting per the applicant's request. Based on Sanborn map research, the rear accessory first appears in the 1893 map and seems to have been constructed at the same time as the primary building. Rear accessory also appears to have had similar windows, shutters, and siding, as well as a hipped roof with decorative roof ridge tiles and finial to match the main building. Based on the age of the building, HDLC considers this a contributing rated accessory. The property previously received commission approval to partially demolish more than 25% of the accessory facade to change the existing window to a garage door opening. The commission approved this request when C of A was issued in December 2019. Based on Google Street View, the accessory was completely demolished to grade no later than March 2022. However, the applicant did not request this additional scope, and this work was not approved in advance. If HDLC staff had been notified about the desire or need to replace the accessory, an inspection would have been requested to determine its current condition, and the request would have been scheduled to review by the full commission if necessary. The applicant is now requesting retention approval for this unpermitted demolition work. Based on the age of the accessory, its contributing rating, and because the applicant made no effort to contact HDLC staff to review the additional scope, staff recommends approval of the retention application and recommends the commission levy a fine for the unpermitted work. Based on the demolition, because this demolition was completed before August 1st, it's subject to the previous fine schedule of $1,000 to $10,000 maximum.
Yeah. To the applicant, do you wish to address the commission?
Yes, please. Good afternoon. I was very impressed with Marilyn and David Wallstatter that they contacted me to make sure that every step moving forward that was done by the book. They are very concerned, and you'll hear from Mrs. Wallstatter on this, but every step that they had taken was under the advisement of their contractor at the time, and they were shocked and dismayed to learn that while they were out of town, he demolished the building, the accessory dwelling, or excuse me, accessory structure, not a dwelling unit. So you will hear from them on that, but I was most impressed that they asked me to assist them moving forward to make sure that as they proceed, that everything is done by the book, like I said earlier. So I think that speaks a lot to the couple and to their intent to do what's right. And you'll hear from them. Thank you.
Thank you. Marilyn Wolstatter, is that correct? All right, please step forward and state your name and address for the record.
My
Pardon
name
me,
is
did I-
Marilyn Wallstatter, and my husband and I own the property at 3704 Coliseum. I continue.
Absolutely, you have 2 minutes.
Okay. I grew up in New Orleans. I went to high school here. I went to college here. I met my husband here and married my husband here, and I have children now and grandchildren here. And my parents, Henry and Eva Galler, came to New Orleans after the Holocaust, and they lived here until Katrina, when they lost their home in Broadmoor. We live in Dallas now, but we intend to relocate here full-time once our home is done, to be with my grandchildren, and also because I consider New Orleans my home. As far as the accessory building, we moved into our home prior to getting any approval, just to live there and see what the house was like. Plans were approved to renovate and convert the accessory structure to a garage and a room for the pool. And I came back, you know, as we live most of the time in Dallas, and I came back in town and was kind of surprised and shocked to see that the building walls were down and gone. And when I asked my contractor about this, he said that the condition of the walls had collapsed. The walls had collapsed, and also that the wood itself was so termite damaged and rotten that he couldn't even salvage any of the material for this building. So we relied on our contractor for his expertise, and he told us he would rebuild the collapsed walls exactly according to the city approved plans, and that doing so would not be a problem with the city. This contractor is no longer on this job. And in conclusion, I just want to say that I'm taking this very seriously, and I want to rectify the situation. It was always my dream to renovate a historic property in New Orleans and come back and live here. And we asked for the commission to consider that we were not given the opportunity to weigh in on the actions taken by our contractor, and we were told about it after the fact. We will be closely supervising and overseeing this process moving forward to be sure that it's done by the book. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, all right. We have a number of other speakers. If you're okay with it, I would like to hear from everyone, and then we'll bring you back up. But thank you for your comments, and we'll hear more from you in just a moment.
Thank you.
That's I have, let's see, Jan Bankston. If you'll step forward, state your name and address for the record. You have 2 minutes.
Okay. My name is Jan Turk Bankston, and I reside at 1314 Amelia Street. The accessory structure at 3704 Coliseum Street abuts the north side of my property. There's a very narrow alley on my property that separates the northern exterior of my home to the accessory building, and it's about 5.5 feet. When my husband and I purchased our home in 2004, the accessory building already appeared neglected. In the 15 ensuing years until Marilyn and David Wallstatter purchased the property, the previous owners did no repairs to the exterior of the building, with the exception of painting the building in 2005 post-Katrina. They even painted over very visible termite damage. The building continued to deteriorate and eventually had irreparable termite damage to clapboards, with a number of them falling off onto our alleyway. When we renovated our home in 2015, the termite damage had become so significant, our termite contractor not only treated the soil, but added 4 additional bait stations in the alley between my home and the building. Additionally, the building continued to list towards my property and got progressively worse each year, to the point that we're concerned that it would completely fall on our property one day. We were elated when Marilyn and David purchased the property. If they erred in any way by reconstructing the accessory building, I think the condition of the building bears the brunt of the responsibility. Where they are The building was crumbling and all the exterior siding had to be replaced. The result, however, is exactly what the building should have looked like had the previous owners performed general routine upkeep. As I mentioned in my letter, Marilyn and David are exactly the kind of people we should be attracting to New Orleans. Kind, responsible individuals who have a desire to contribute to the city. I'm asking for the commissioner to consider these facts and personally do not feel a fine is warranted, as I feel the couple has been punished severely already. If the commission rules otherwise, I hope that the fine would be minimal. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. I'm gonna hear just the final comments here, just because we had a number. We also had a number of folks write in about this one. Susan Johnson. Okay. Declining to speak. Thank you. Is there any other public comment on this application? Okay, to the applicant, do you mind coming back up for just a moment? I appreciate everyone who's here and making the comments. This is in the Garden District, which is partial control.
It's actually not. It's a couple of blocks uptown of Louisiana Avenue. So I think it's in the Uptown District. I think that might have just been a typo.
Okay.
Can staff confirm that?
If you'll check, that's fine. Regardless, both districts are partial control districts. I know that you are aware of that because you have architectural plans that are here. I remember, probably most of the folks on this commission remember reviewing your application carefully. So we do realize you're fully aware that you're in a partial control district, be it Uptown or Carrollton or Garden District. We'll get clarification on that in just a moment. I'm so sorry that your contractor tore it down while you were out of town. I realize we are grateful to have you in the city. In the city. Thank you for investing in historic structure. Regardless, you're in a partial district. And just to the public watching, the owner of the property still has the responsibility for the folks that they hire who work on their property, be it a contractor who's there now, not there now. If they tore it down, they didn't tear it down. You know, eyes and ears are really important when you live away from a project. You know, given it's very clear that you do know, you've hired counsel for this as well, that you're aware you're in a partial district. I will say the fine, given it's prior to the more steep fines, it's the staff is recommending retention with a fine that's 1,000 to 10,000. I do think if it had come in front of us, I'm not sure that we would have approved the demolition of the structure. And as you can see, for anyone who's looking at this, the previous condition, the proportions are significantly different and are allowing for a very different condition that's happening, which is usually, you know, it does not look like the previous structure that was there. So just to make that clear as well. I would like to get clarification on who's.
I apologize. It is Uptown.
It's the Uptown District.
You're correct that they're both partial control, so it's the same.
It's the same.
regulations.
I think we know what's in front of us today in terms of review. Commissioner Bruno, this is your district. I'll ask, are there any other questions from commissioners on this application? Commissioner Bressler?
I hope you have a good attorney, because it sounds like your contractor might be at fault for this. I have no idea what the fine will be, but actually, your mother was my Sunday school teacher and she was a wonderful lady. So, and her survival of the Holocaust was unbelievable. So very.
Thank you.
But anyway, we've had these situations before. Hopefully your contractor, I don't know if anybody can look into this contractor and see about his license, but when people go do things like that, it's just very, very bad for the city. And
I understand.
I'm certainly impressed with your ability to come in and say you're going to try to rebuild to the extent you can. And it's hard to blame you, but it's, you know,
I
you're the
understand.
only one here. So I'll turn it over to Ms. Bruno.
Commissioner Bruno?
Support the staff's recommendation in this case. Means that the work can be retained and there should be a small fine, maybe $3,000 for unpermitted work.
So,
For unpermitted work,
so,
work that was not permitted.
so Commissioner Bruno, I'm going to repeat your motion that's on the floor. It's to vote with the staff's recommendation and allow retention of the structure and levy a fine of minimal fine of $3,000 for the unpermitted work. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second that and let you know there's some good attorneys in the audience.
Okay, Commissioner Bressler, seconds that. Is there any additional comments on this application, Commissioner Red?
Yes, I would be in support of a lower fine of $1,000 since it was an accessory structure and because they've acted in good faith.
We have a motion and a second on the floor. Commissioner Bruno would need to amend her application.
Let's
Her
vote
motion.
on my applicant,
Do you wish to amend your motion to a lower fine?
no, I do not.
I support that. I think this is a moderate fine, given that the work was unpermitted. Respectfully, the owner was fully aware they're in a partial district and has gone through this process for the renovations on the house. And I'm sorry that you were not here to oversee the work. But it is a tough lesson to learn, and yeah. So Commissioner Bruno's, we have a motion on the floor. We have a second. Is there any additional comments from commissioners? All those in favor? All those opposed? Commissioner Red is opposed to the motion. The motion passes. Thank you. And I'm not even sure on this one, given we've got a retention. So I'm going to read the denial just because in case there is some sort of, you're moving forward with that. Your application has been denied by the HDLC Commission. You have 10 calendar days from the date of this meeting to appeal to City Council in writing. The staff will furnish you with the details of the appeals process. Thank you. Thank you for all the work that you've done on the house, and good luck with your project.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, moving forward, we've got new business retention applications, item A, 538, 540 Phillips Street. Is the applicant present? All right, please step forward, state your name and address for the record.
Dennis Diaz. I'm here representing Miss Sarah Beth Daigle. She couldn't be here today on the fireplace removal.
Thank you. We'll let the staff make their presentation and we'll hear your comments following.
This is an application for retention of removal of a chimney at a contributing rated one-story single-family residential building in deviation of a C of A. The residential building previously had two masonry chimneys. The rear chimney was approved for removal at the August 3rd commission meeting. An HDLC C of A was issued on October 27th for shingle replacement and removal of the rear chimney. On December 14th, the owner contacted the HDLC to inform that the chimney at the front collapsed while the roof repairs and removal of the rear chimney work was being done. No photos of the collapsed chimney were submitted. As the chimney has already been removed and cannot be reconstructed, staff recommends the retention be granted. However, staff would like to note that chimneys are an important architectural feature of historic homes and would recommend to any roofers doing work on historic buildings to be overly cautious when working with and around chimneys so that we do not continue to lose this important historic fabric.
Thank you for the note to the public and the staff report. To the applicant, do you wish to address the commission?
Just that the work on this one crumbled on us and it went down before I got back to the job, realized those bricks were down, gone, couldn't get a photo, and here we are today.
So as you've heard, we rely on really wonderful contractors inside HDLC districts. Please take a photo and notify the inspector, which really helps as we're reviewing these applications in lieu of just cleaning up the mess and moving on. It does come up as we move forward to close projects and as inspectors are out in the field. I will say, everyone notices when this happens. So just please follow suit and work with the city on that in the future. Chimneys, as I will state to Jesse LeBlanc, we hate to see chimneys missing and removed. There is nothing we can do in terms of the demolition fine for chimneys. So just to the commission, I know that always comes up as a question. Following is why is there not a fine attached to an element that's been demolished? But we can't. So the staff is recommending retention of the demolition. Another question that often comes up by commissioners and just to the public is why do we not require you to rebuild the chimneys? Often this is very difficult to detail in flash and requires further investigation of what's underneath in the structure. So we do not often recommend that either, but really sad to see another chimney go. It's like no fine involved with this. No fine involved with this because it's it's not a structure. Yeah. It's like you heard an angel lose its wings every time a chimney's on here. So, anyway, sad to see this happen. Is there any public comment on this application? There's no public comment. Are there any questions from commissioners?
I wasn't present on the job site. I was picking materials up. It happened. I don't know. The pitch of the roof, we had scheduled this job a day ahead of some rain, and we was gonna do half that day and get it back on, let the rain come through. So when it crumbled, my guys are just moving, they do that thing. I get there and I'm like, whoa, what's going on? What happened? He told me everything's in the dump trailer by then. And I'm like, so I called Miss Daigle, Sarah, we got a problem. This is what just happened. And then this meeting was set up, and I'm here today.
So essentially your crews weren't instructed to keep the chimney, which is why it happened.
Say-
Your crews were not instructed correctly to keep the chimney in place while re-roofing.
Pretty much as they was working the back section we decided to do first, they had to keep walking by the first chimney to get the debris to the trailer.
I would encourage you to supervise your crews.
Yeah, I wasn't.
Who's looking to hire you as a roofer, to supervise you as a roofer as well. And make sure that the
I
work
was
that's on
gone
the
45
survey
minutes.
happens. We all are very familiar with construction sites. Yeah. Anyway, Commissioner King, does that answer your question or? Thank you. Do you wish to make a motion, or this is an Irish Channel, actually, Commissioner Hackenberg?
Yes, I will reluctantly make a motion to approve the retention of the demolition of the chimneys.
Thank you. We have a motion on the floor. We have a second. Commissioner King, you want a second? Commissioner King seconds. Is there any further comment from commissioners? All those in favor? All those opposed? The motion carries unanimously. Thank you, and good luck on the next re-roof out there. So
Hope not to see you here again.
Thank you.
thank you. Please watch your crews. Item B, 4115 Royal Street. Is the applicant present? Please step forward, state your name and address for the record.
Hello, my name is Myron Tabata with MRT Construction. We're the contractor for this project.
Thank you.
All right, this is an application for retention of removal of existing windows and installation of inappropriate windows, removal of gutters and downspouts, and the reframing of an existing side entry doorway at in a full control Bywater. 4115 Royal is a single shotgun residential building constructed in circa 1920. In August 2022, an HDLC C of A was issued to replace the existing gable and hip shingle roof with shingles to match in kind. However, a stop work order was placed on the building later that month for work being completed beyond the approved scope of work. The stop work included the removal of existing wood windows and installation of inappropriate vinyl windows, the removal of gutters and downspouts, the removal of vinyl siding, reframing of the existing side entry doorway, the installation of a metal railing, and the removal of metal awnings. Several items, including the railing, siding, and awning removal, are approvable at the staff level and are, excuse me, are not a part of the retention request at this time. The applicant is seeking retention of the inappropriate windows, gutters, and downspouts, as well as the work done at the side entryway. The existing windows were a combination of 6/6 and 4/4 original wood windows. A total of 7 windows were replaced without HDLC review and or approval. And per the HDLC guidelines, existing wood windows can be replaced at site elevations with aluminum or vinyl windows. Typically, vinyl windows do not really match the dimensions of existing wood windows, and therefore, usually the HDLC staff approves aluminum replacement windows or wood clad options. Overall, The windows are visible from the public right of way and are extremely flush mounted and have grills in between the glass as well as uneven sash heights. And due to the overall visibility and inappropriateness, staff recommends denial of the retention request. Gutters and downspouts are obviously integral to removal of water away from the property, and are often cited as demolition by neglect conditions. Staff recommends denial of the removal of gutters and downspouts and requests that they both be reinstalled. Based on previous images of the side entry at the left side elevation, it appears that the header height of the doorway was reduced to accommodate a new, smaller door. Restructuring at the header at the door was not reviewed or approved by the HLC. The door is minimally visible at this location and not original to the building, and a transom was never at that location. So staff recommends approval of retention of the changes at this location.
Thank you. To the applicant, you have 2 minutes. If you wish to address the commission and explain how this happened.
Yeah, I mean, we were kind of working on the project. I mean, we didn't really make much changes. I mean, the canopies we were gonna, they actually sent us the email. They said that they were in violation anyway, so that's, we took them down. The gutters, we're gonna be reinstalling new gutters. The siding, they had the old metal siding that was put on top of the original wood siding, so we just took that metal off and we're keeping the wood siding. So all we're gonna do is paint it, so that's staying. As far as the windows, we didn't touch none of the original windows in the front because they were in good condition, but the rest of them, they were like really deteriorated. So we just kind of, it was an emergency. We had to
It's
put
not
them
your
in.
choice to take them out. Sorry. It was not approved on your application.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the 4 items that we have in front of us today. So you removed the windows. What did you do with the windows?
I mean, they were totally rotten. They went to the trash. I mean, there was no other option with them.
And then you've installed the installation of the inappropriate vinyl windows without approval or consulting the HDLC to amend your C of A.
That was our fault.
Item 3 is you've removed the gutters and the downspouts. Is there an intention? Are you planning to go back with
Yes.
gutters and downspouts?
Yes, after we paint the building, we're gonna put new gutters on. I mean, they were all leaking. They were sectioned off gutters, so we're just gonna put some new
This-
fresh gutter.
That are HDLC approved.
Yes. approved.
Absolutely. And then you've changed the back door without approval as well.
Yeah, I mean,
So you are working in a historic district landmark neighborhood that is in full control in Bywater. I'm very familiar with this building too. It's right around the corner from one of the other projects we heard earlier. It is a beautiful shotgun that you have ruined. You've just torn it apart without any regard to the historic fabric or respect for working with the city. I'm a little floored by what's happened and hope that as you move forward and if you continue to work in historic districts, that you understand the process and work with the city moving forward.
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, whatever little things we need to take care of to make sure we get it approved. I mean,
So-
it's fine.
I'd like to make sure you understand what it means to work in the HDLC. Anything that is visible from public right of way is reviewed by the city and requires amending on the C of A. Chase, who provided the report here, is your contact throughout the process. If the windows are in fact rotten, you would call out, you would let Chase know, you notify the city staff. They would send out an inspector to look at it as well and work with you to decide if there is, an alternative to it. On this one, you've removed the historic wood windows and put back something that is not even anything like what we would approve. So I don't see how, we would approve that or allow retention of the vinyl windows, the inappropriate vinyl windows that are there. You've also gone to reframing the openings, which are visible in the photos that have been submitted. So this is in my neighborhood. Unfortunately, I've seen this building for a long time. It was beautiful because it was untouched. And unfortunate that it fell in the hands of someone who does not take care with historic structures. And if I could make a motion right now, I would 100% agree with the staff's recommendation and not deny the retention of the removal of the wood windows, deny retaining the inappropriate installation of vinyl windows, and request that they go back to match the existing openings. Deny the removal of the gutters and downspouts, and that you work with the staff to to follow and provide the correct downspouts and gutters on this property and allow for the entry door. I agree, it is minimally visible. And then I would request that the staff closely watch this project as they move forward. Yeah, this is, and I'm assuming that the ownership group is not the one that is also would own the house long term to live in it.
Yeah,
It's a development group that has,
Yeah.
it's, yeah. So, again, as y'all purchase or do other proper projects in historic districts, please pay attention to the rules, and have some respect for the historic fabric that you're working with. Yeah, these things make us sad, especially me. But anyway,
Can I make the motion that you can't make?
yes, absolutely. Commissioner Bressler,
Yes.
that's it.
That was my motion.
I don't know if we need to restate it for the record. The motion is item 1, deny the retention of the removal of the wood windows. Item 2 is deny the installation of inappropriate vinyl windows. Item 3 is deny the removal of the gutters and downspouts and require the applicant to go back with HDLC approved gutters and downspouts. And item 4 is to allow for the retention of the entry door that's been reframed at the back of the property.
Correct.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Bressler. Are there any other commissioners who would second that motion? Commissioner Clark, thank you. Is there any further public comment on this application? No further public comments. Any further comment from commissioners? No comment. All those in favor? All those opposed, the motion carries. Your application has been denied by the HDLC Commission, and you have 10 calendar days from the date of this meeting to appeal to City Council in writing. The staff will furnish you with the details of the appeals process.
Okay.
Good luck with your project. Please show some care in a historic district.
Sure will.
District.
Thank you, guys.
I'm sorry, that one particularly hurt because I love that building, and have seen it. It has a lot of really nice detail for a shotgun, and really hurt to see it in terms of what has been removed on that. But item C is 801 Jackson Avenue. Is the applicant present? Please step forward and state your name and address for the record.
Hello, Alexander Zornich, 1301 Lower Line Street.
Thank you. The staff will make their presentation and we'll hear your comments.
Yes, this is an application for retention of the removal of a rear door and transom and installation of an inappropriate window. The removal of a first-story rear door, the installation of visible mechanical equipment and conduit at the rear elevation, and the installation of an inappropriate exterior light fixture at the corner entry of a contributing rated 2-story single-family residential building in deviation of a C of A in the Lower Garden District. This one has quite a number of moving parts, so I might do the first half and then we take them one by one. That might be easier.
This one, just as a note, we don't have a Lower Garden District representative, so if one of the commissioners can pay attention to this, or I can try to make a motion, but this has a lot of parts as well. This has 5 items. Yeah.
Okay. So in August 2022, a renovation permit was submitted for mostly interior work. The scope of work also included the expansion of the rear deck, and although scheduled to be reviewed by the HDLC ARC, the proposed expansion was tabled and eventually removed from the scope of work. And at that time, an HDLC C of A was issued for just some exterior siding replacement. In November 2022, a mechanical permit was submitted for the installation of new HVAC condenser units at the rear of the building. And following correspondence between the contractor and staff, it was noted that the mechanical equipment and associated conduit had been installed prior to the issuance of the mechanical permit. And then submitted photographs from that also revealed the previous work had been exceeded from the HDLC C of A. An early December 2022 inspection showed that an existing door and transom at the rear of the building had been removed and replaced with an inappropriate vinyl window. Mechanical equipment and conduit had been installed at visually prominent locations, and an inappropriate lighting fixture had been installed. And as well as at the rear of the building, there are 2 existing divided light doors at the first story under the deck. Those had been removed and replaced with solid 4-panel doors. So I'll go with the door to window change first. it's likely that the right side door and transom were the original at the rear of the building. 2007 photos show that the left side door and transom were not there prior, so they matched this existing area. And at the work that was done, removed that door and transom, and inappropriate vinyl window was installed at that location. The applicant, has some interior changes that precipitated the change for the window, because on the interior, this is a bathroom. But also there is mechanical equipment that the applicant would like to place at this location. So the window made it more convenient rather than a door stepping out to mechanical equipment, which I can cover later as well. The visually prominent door and window change is not really something typical that the HDLC would approve. And it would definitely require the review and approval of the Architectural Review Committee. Staff can only recommend the denial of the door to window change. And if retention is allowed, staff recommends that an appropriate window be installed at that location. 2 HVAC condenser units were installed without mechanical permits. The permits were applied for, but the units were already installed upon communication with staff. One is under the stairway of the deck, and the location is actually more appropriate at this point than it was previously. The proposed location for the other condenser unit is at the location of the now window, which was the door previously. And although this location is contingent on the approval of the retention of the window, this location is screened by the deck balustrade and overall positioning. Staff recommends approval of the installation of the condenser unit at the second story deck location, regardless of if the window to door change is retained, because of understanding of the sight lines and the fact that this building is on a corner and everything at that location is visible. And this does reduce visibility. Between September and December of 2022, an exterior light fixture was installed at the corner entry of the building. Per the HDLC guidelines, decorative lighting should be compatible with the building, and the style and material of the light fixture is not in keeping with the building. Staff recommends denial of retention and replacement of a fixture that is more appropriate. Lastly, the 2 doors at the first story on the rear facade were removed and replaced. The existing wood doors were divided light, sort of bungalow style pattern light arrangement. It is unlikely that they were original to the building. However, they were historic. These doors were removed and replaced with 4-panel wood doors. It does not appear that any infill occurred within the openings. Because the doors are minimally visible and the replacement doors are approvable doors, staff recommends approval of retention.
Thank you. So the applicant, do you wish to explain all the deviations?
That was a long one.
Yeah,
to
it's really
listen.
long for us to listen to too.
Yeah, so the exterior condensing units were not installed or replaced there for us to take a picture. So you can see in the pictures that they're not connected. Well, at least at this moment, the upstairs unit is not connected to the wires out of the conduit. Yes, I unfortunately I did replace that window or the door with a transom. That was a metal door, just like the one on the left. I found that out because a bullet shot through that door a couple of months ago, and I had to patch it. And I put a vinyl window. It's not my favorite window, but the house has it's a mixture of vinyl and aluminum windows. It was a storm season, so I just grabbed whatever was the easiest for me to grab from Home Depot. Put it there with my dad, so that was me. And the light, I wasn't aware of the guidelines.
So you're working in a historic district.
I understand.
And you have to review everything with HDLC when you're in full control and you're highly visible.
Once I was made aware.
Do you understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you understand that when you got on this one? There was a permit issued at one point, right? So you're aware when you got a permit that you got a C of A from HDLC.
Correct.
Did you read the permit?
Yes.
Okay, then it tells you that you have to come back to the staff with any changes,
Yeah.
changes. It's not your decision
lot
whether
going
you
on,
like or
sorry.
don't like something or where the light goes or what that is. You have to come back and review it with HDLC. That's why the guidelines are in
Absolutely.
place. Just want to make sure you understand that as you move forward.
Absolutely.
Okay. On this property, any other property, that's the procedure. That's why you're here. This is a long list. We all volunteer time up here too, so we would prefer that you work with the staff so that we don't have to go through each item to retain or deny all of this as well. But I guess let's go through them one by one and see what we can do. I think the staff's been pretty reasonable in the recommendations. Have you read those in terms of what they're recommending to deny or
I have not,
proof?
no, I have not received.
Okay, you have not received them.
No, ma'am. But I would also like to address the conduits, and I have a letter, I have a statement from the
So
HVAC contractor.
The staff's, just to clear up, so all of this is online. It's fully accessible to the public. They generally do send out a note to you to read it. I would just highly advise that you read everything that you're receiving when you're doing construction in the city of New Orleans, especially anything that comes from the city. We'll go through them one by one and read them out to you, and hopefully, if y'all can just drive this PowerPoint, we can try to go through each one. The first one is the removal of the existing door and transom. The staff is recommending denial of the retention. And that's the one that's highly visible at the second floor. So we get a lot of these applications as well. People want to do interior program changes. We don't change historic fabric based on the current wishes of what's going to be inside. We've gotten requests, bathrooms to I want to put a TV in front of it. Sorry, find another spot or put some curtains up and put it over it. Can't do that. So I think this one is reasonable. It is highly visible in terms of the staff's recommendation to deny the retention. The second item is installation of the inappropriate window. The staff is recommending denial of that retention. Or if the retention is granted, that the window should be replaced with an appropriate window. So again, those two go together. I think that seems very reasonable in terms of replacing it with what was originally there. Item 3 is the installation of the visible mechanical HVAC equipment and associated conduit. The staff, I'm a little surprised by this one, but is allowing retention of it. I think this is part of the negotiation and looking at it. It is highly visible on the corner. And so, Chase, I guess, will you just explain? I assume because it's highly visible.
The
there's not a
equipment.
good, for the HVAC, allowing retention of it.
Yeah, I mean, the one on the ground floor was actually moved and it's really screened by the stairs to the deck. The other problem is that the lot line is so close on the left side that you can't put mechanical equipment there. And they also explain, the HVAC contractor explained that the conduit associated with putting 2 units at the bottom would have to run all the way up as well. So it kind of is, a compromise based on the visibility of everything, because it's almost impossible for them not to be visible at the rear.
That makes sense. And again, this is where the staff spends time with the applicant and reads through the materials that you've submitted in terms of that. So they're recommending that we approve and allow the retention of that location.
Or the upstairs unit?
For the, yes, for the visible mechanical HVAC equipment and associated conduit. So it's for both of the current HVAC equipment that's there.
Okay, but if I have to bring back the door upstairs, then I cannot place the HVAC unit there because it's a code violation.
You'll need to work with the staff for a new location for that, and that'll be what's part of it.
Is
we
it
can't-
possible to get an approved window or abstain?
That's up to this commission to, the commission to could decide to approve the window. Commissioner Wakeman.
If I could make a comment, I recall quite some time ago, we had something similar before us where there were 2 rear doors and one of the doors they removed because they were in fact putting in a bathroom. And the solution was to put the door back up, but have it inoperable. In essence, a fake door. So from the outside, it looks same, and you're then free to do whatever you want inside.
Correct. And that is, I remember the application, it was in the Marigny, actually, and that is generally what is, the detail that's worked out with staff is to make it essentially a blind door, if you will. And so it doesn't operate, but it is in its closed position.
Okay, so no approved window. phase
Currently,
4,
yeah, again,
uh,
it's up to this commission can decide to disagree with the staff's recommendations. I'm just walking through them one by
Okay.
one, and then we'll have a motion. I cannot make a motion. But I'm just reading the fine print for everyone else.
Okay.
Item 4 is the installation of the inappropriate light fixture at the corner entry. The staff is recommending denial of retention and installation and denial of retention and an installation of a more appropriate fixture, which this seems reasonable. I don't know if you have an image. I don't know if we can. Anyway, but that seems reasonable as well. That's an easy, light fixtures are easy to change out and move. The last one is the removal of the existing divided pane door and installation of solid 4-panel doors at the first floor, which the staff after review is recommending to approve. So 2 of them are tied together, but it's pretty much a 50-50 in terms of what's being retained and what's being denied. If that makes sense. To allow for the retention. I don't know, I'm on the staff report, I don't know. How much far this, wow. Do we have a motion? This is in. One second, this is in the Lower Garden District, so we do not have a representative.
I'll tackle it if you would like
All
me
right,
to.
yes, please, Commissioner Green.
So what I would like to make a motion, or I am making a motion that we deny the retention of the removal of the door and transom. And that, as the commissioners have suggested, you can put up what is essentially the fake door. And so in that, I would also say that we're going to deny the retention of the inappropriate window. What I also noticed was the siding looks uneven underneath that window. I don't know what was going on with that, but it just looked odd to me. I would recommend that we approve the installation of the HVAC equipment that is visible and the associated conduit, but I'm also surprised that the staff recommended that. And I recommend that we deny the inappropriate light fixture and say, work with the staff to find an appropriate light fixture to install there in its place. And then also approve the removal of the existing divided pane doors and the installation of the solid 4-panel doors on the first story. Yes. No, I feel like we've dealt with this issue before and that it needs to have the second door, even if it's a fake door. No problem.
Thank you. Thank you for making that long motion. That was great. Do we have a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
Commissioner Hackenberg seconds. I forgot to ask, is there any public comment on this application? There's no public comment. Are there any additional comments from commissioners on this application? All those in favor? All those opposed? The motion carries unanimously. Your application has been half and half, has been denied by HDLC Commission. You have 10 calendar days from the date of this meeting to appeal to City Council in writing, and the staff will furnish you with the details of that appeals process.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And in the future, please work with the staff so that you're not on the retention items. Thank you. Item D, 3000 South Carrollton Avenue, 8113 Fig Street. I believe this application has been withdrawn.
Yes.
Item E, 2510 Gravier Street. Is the applicant present? Please step forward and state your name and address for the record.
Garrett Willis,
Thank you. Can you state your address as well?
2510 Gravier.
Thank you. Staff, if you'll make your presentation, we'll hear the applicants. comments
This
following.
is an application for retention of demolition of a contributing CMU building over 1,000 square feet without a C of A in partial control mid-city. 2510 Gravier Street was a large CMU residential building constructed in circa 1956 within the period of significance for the mid-city historic district, which makes it a contributing building. However, the building although contributing in age, is a pretty simplistic CMU building void of any real architectural detailing, and the building lacks in its overall contribution to the Mid-City district. An application for demolition after the fact was applied for by the current owner. The current owner purchased the property as a vacant lot for the redevelopment purposes, insinuating that the demolition occurred under previous ownership. It is unclear when the demolition took place. Google Street View shows the building there in March 2022. Had the demolition of the building been applied for, it is likely that HDLC would have recommended approval of the demolition. The CMU building is not architecturally significant, and based on Sanborn Fire Insurance map history, it replaced a previous single shotgun building. Staff recommends retention of demolition and that no fine be levied against the current owner as the demolition did not occur under their ownership.
Thank you. To the applicant, do you wish to address the commission?
No, none at this time.
Just to clarify, so did you purchased the property from the staff's report? Did you demolish the structure?
No, the previous owner did.
Okay. And I think it's clear on this one. It does look like something we probably would have approved. This is in Mid-City, which is a parcel district. I'm going to first ask if there's any public comment on this application. There's no public comment. Commissioner Clark, this is in your district.
Do you know when the building was demolished?
No, I don't. I purchased it on November 2nd of 22.
Okay, relatively recently. Okay, well, I mean, I think it's unfortunate that a building was demolished, period, without coming before us. And so I know that was not under your control. So thank you for appearing here today. And because I think we would have approved demolition of this building anyway, I will vote to retain the building and not impose a fine.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second? Commissioner King seconds. Is there any further comment from commissioners? No further comment. All those in favor? All those opposed? The motion carries unanimously. Thank you and good luck with your project.
Thank you. Yeah, have a good day.
Demolish anything, just come in front of us with an application first, please. Thank you. All right, item F, 1101 Elysian Fields Avenue. The applicant present.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Ricardo Tenorio, 2439 Manhattan Boulevard, Harvey, Louisiana.
Thank you. I'll let the staff make their presentation and we'll hear your comments following.
This is an application to retain visually prominent roof-mounted HVAC equipment installed without a permit and to retain a metal facade canopy as installed in deviation of approved drawings and an existing non-contributing rated one-story commercial building in full control Marini. The HDLC guidelines note that roof-mounted mechanical equipment is a modern necessity. However, the design and location of this equipment can have a significant negative impact on the integrity of the existing building and surrounding historic district. The guidelines also note that property owners are encouraged to limit the amount of rooftop mechanical equipment and to ensure that all equipment is installed as unobtrusively as possible. While the proposed locations of new roof-mounted equipment was noted on the HDLC approved drawings, the applicant did not indicate the equipment would need to be so large and visible to accommodate the new interior use. For example, these mechanical units were not indicated on the proposed elevations, and thus staff was not aware that they would be so large and so highly visible. While the existing building is non-contributing rated, the one-story massing and minimal existing roof parapet makes the equipment as installed highly visible and visually obtrusive from many points in the surrounding public right-of-way, including the highly trafficked intersection of St. Cloud and Elysian Field Avenues. A mechanical permit was applied for on September 2nd, 2022 to install this equipment. HDLC contacted the applicant to request information for review. However, no response or additional information was provided. On November 29, 2022, HDLC staff observed that the equipment had been installed in the building without HDLC or safety and permits approval. The applicant is now requesting retention of these HVAC units to remain as installed. Because the equipment is so highly visible and visually obtrusive from the surrounding streets, staff recommends denial of the request for retention and recommends the applicant work with the Architectural Review Committee and staff to develop a minimal screening strategy that is appropriate for the building and reduces the overall visibility of the equipment. And the second item is the metal facade canopy. The HDLC guidelines note that new building canopies and awnings should relate to the openings they protect and that the overall design and detailing must be consistent with the buildings they are installed on. The ARC previously made several recommendations concerning the specific details of the metal awning, as this is one of the primary exterior design elements of the renovated building. The previously approved drawings show this new awning is matching and corresponding the length of the window opening below. However, the pre-manufactured awning was purchased at the incorrect size and was subsequently installed such that the awning is shorter than the opening below. The applicant is now requesting this condition be retained as installed. Based on the guidelines and due to the visibility of this condition at the primary Elysian Fields elevation, staff recommends denial of the request for retention and recommends the awning be corrected to match the previously approved drawings.
Thank you. To the applicant, do you wish to address the commission?
Yes, ma'am. So for the awning, I want to get that one out the way. I have spoken with the owner since the speaking to him, and she is going to fix it. And she's also going to put the black facade metal piece across the front to enclose the circles. So we have discussed that with her. She ordered it from China, like he said, it's prefabricated. So she didn't know at the time, and now it's up and she's going to fix it. As far as the roof goes, we are here because first of all, we're not the applicant for the HVAC. We just did the original initial drawings. He went and put them up. We found out after the fact, the owner asked us to come and represent them on behalf of that person and them. We did make suggestions to encase them in some way, whereas it being maybe a parapet to extend up or shading it around. They have wished for us to represent them here in hopes that they do not have to do that. Obviously, we do understand that that is not favorable, but they are our client at the end of the day, and we have to express their wishes.
Understood. Well, thank you for being here and representing the owner. I'm sorry that the owner couldn't make it to represent themselves and talk through these items. This project, I'll remind everyone, is in a full control HDLC district. It is also on a highly visible corner and is, you can see every, surrounded by a parking lot on the backside of this. So almost every angle of the exterior on this project is visible from the street. I was surprised to see the roof equipment go up. Obviously, it does need to be screened.
Yes.
I don't think that's something that we can accept as a commission, nor would anyone driving down Elysian Fields and St. Cloud want to see all of the rooftop equipment up there. The other note is just, this is to the public when you're doing drawings, and this is why it's best to go ahead and accept the size of your HVAC units early in your project and go ahead and put them on. We often see this in projects that get value engineered. Screens are not inexpensive. We understand that as well, but sometimes there are adjustments that can be made if it was studied on paper rather than after the mechanical contractor installed it. So with that, it sounds like the applicant is willing, well, I think we would deny both items. I'll look to Commissioner Wakeman for that, but it looks like the applicant is already working with staff to remedy the metal facade canopy, and just, that is quite unusual looking as well.
Yeah. When she purchased them, they're purchased in equal sections, and obviously that didn't fit over the existing windows. So I asked if she could get like a 1-foot piece to enclose that last bit, and then it would tie. And then she's also missing a few rods that she's like, they're coming.
Coordination is the toughest part of
Yeah.
the job. You order the windows separate from the awning and somebody has to measure and check everything. Absolutely. So with that, I'm gonna see if there's any public comment on this application. No public comments. Commissioner Wakeman, this is in your district.
First, I have a question from for the staff. Excuse me. When I look at the elevation drawing for the previously approved awnings, at the opening, at the entrance, it appears as if there's a canopy comparable to the one that goes around the building. And yet, as in the photograph, as installed, doesn't look the same. We address that.
This was noted, this is mid-construction, so the work isn't finished yet. They had just applied for the mechanical, and in the process of looking for the information to review, we noticed that that work was already completed. And then further discussion with the applicant, we noticed that the canopy was a little short. That's why they decided to request retention now, but the other canopies aren't yet installed fully.
So the corner, the entrance one, she actually did order putting in the building, but we're having issues with that one too, because when she ordered it, it came in 2 triangles, not the one piece that's shown on the drawing. So that's why it's not up there yet. And then also when they removed that existing roof that used to be around the building, it was later discovered that it's got that little iron piece that the building actually comes out at the corner and not all the way down. So they planning to infill that back to the way that it should have been in the original drawing.
All while working with the staff at HDLC.
Yes.
Correct? To get it reviewed at ARC and or approved at staff level prior to getting to the retention.
Yeah, we're just after the fact. They just
Un-
are like, hey, we have an issue.
Good question, Commissioner Wakeman.
Okay, so I make a motion, excuse me, that we approve the staff recommendations and deny both of these applications.
So deny the roof mounted HVAC equipment and allow the applicant to work with the staff and the ARC to develop a strategy for screening the equipment. And then deny the metal facade canopy. Thank you. Do we have a second to that motion? Commissioner Love, thank you.
I just had a question. I guess I'm a little confused about sequence. We're denying retaining of the units, which means they have to remove them.
We're denying essentially its visibility. So we would allow them to retain the equipment pending they can come to a solution with the ARC and the staff on the screening. And generally this is done on projects while it's on paper. Because obviously this HVAC is visible and would always be visible if it was submitted. Which is also why
I don't understand why he put it up there without a permit.
I will say this happens often with lack of coordination, or especially when projects are kind of piecemealed over time or start and stop. We just, again, note that to the public, if you are working on a project and you do hire an architect or someone to draft your project, please, it makes sense to have conduit and HVAC and all the stuff, water heaters, all the stuff that we see all the time, show up on your drawings and go ahead and review them at the staff level early in the process. Okay, so we have a motion on the floor. We have a second. Any further comment from commissioners? All those in favor? All those opposed? The motion carries unanimously. Thank you and good luck with your project. Please encourage the owner to continue working with HDLC. I'll go ahead and read this. Your application has been denied by HDLC Commission and you have 10 calendar days from the date of this meeting to appeal to the City Council in writing. The staff will furnish you with the details of the appeals process.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Item G, 2220 Broadway Street. Is the applicant present? Please step forward and state your name and address for the record.
Good afternoon. I am retired Judge Michael G. Bagneris, and I reside at 5000 Bancroft Drive.
Welcome, Mr. Bagneris. I'll let the staff make their presentation and we'll hear your comments.
This is an application for the retention of a demolition of more than 25% of the primary facade on a contributing rated two-story multifamily residential building without a certificate of appropriateness or C of A. Hurricane Ida caused exterior and interior damage at 2220 Broadway. Work to repair the exterior wall was completed without a certificate of appropriateness and cited on May 10th, 2022. The HDLC worked with the owner and confirmed that the demolition did not meet the 50% criteria for exterior wall demolition, and the item was not heard at the September 7th, 2022 Commission meeting. A non-structural permit was issued on September 12th, 2022 by Safety and Permits for interior work and some weatherboard replacement to repair the damage from Hurricane Ida. On November 30th, 2022, an inspection found that more than 25% of the primary facade had been demolished without a certificate of appropriateness or review from the HDLC Commission. On site, it was expressed to the inspector, Dean Seal, that the primary facade would be restored to its previous state. Unfortunately, the columns, exterior stucco finish, and Spanish-style archtop porch openings were removed due to termite damage during the unpermitted demolition. The non-historic windows encapsulating the second floor porch were also removed as part of the unpermitted demolition. The non-historic windows were added sometime after 2014, but prior to the designation of the Uptown District in 2017. The staff recommends the retention of the demolition of more than 25% of the primary facade. The staff recommends that the commission levy a fine for the unpermitted demolition of more than 25% of the primary facade. Because this demolition work was completed after August 1st, 2022, it is subject to the new fine schedule. The fine range is $1,000 to $86,760 at 15% of the current assessed building value of $578,400.
Thank you. To the applicant, do you wish to address the commission?
Yes, thank you.
You have 2 minutes.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to disabuse this board of any notion, if it has a notion that my client was attempting to circumvent obtaining a certificate of appropriateness. That is definitely not the case. I believe if you look at his conduct in addressing this building, you will see that his intent was to do everything right. After purchasing the building, he purchased the building last year. And he purchased it along with several other pieces of property out of bankruptcy court. And the former owner has been making complaints about all of the properties that he purchased with primarily with code enforcement. And it's been costing him quite a bit of money to go in and try to address violations that he did, not the present owner. The owner immediately got, after purchasing the property, got a permit to do the renovations. He obtained the permit from the city because the primary building was primarily comprised of the siding, and the porch is comprised of a stucco. When he was completing the primary portion of the building, what this board and the staff and everyone has been referring to as the immensely dangerous collapse that began to occur with the porch section of the building. I say that because of the cracks that were in the building and because of the debris and the glass and the stucco that had fallen to the ground. So something had to be done immediately. My client called the city, spoke to a Mr. J. Dufour, and indicated that he would be obtaining an amended permit, which he did. He paid for and obtained an amended permit to do the work on the porch aspect of the building. When this was addressed, and it was being addressed without having noticed
I'm allowing you to go past time, but if you can go ahead and wrap up your comment.
I'll wrap it up
We're
with
at
this.
2:15.
The NOHDLC, when he was doing the work, issued a stop work order, assumingly because he failed to obtain a certificate of appropriation. This failure was only the result of his lack of knowledge. My client would simply like to know what must be done from this point in order for him to move forward with the renovation.
Okay, thank you so much for your comments. I can certainly answer that if you're doing work in the city of New Orleans, as I've stated many times at this meeting today. And if your client is doing construction work, they must obtain the proper permits. That includes if they're doing structural work, they have to obtain both a building permit with the city of New Orleans, that is a structural permit, and in addition, an HDLC work for any work that is visible from public right of way. I will say the case history on this one, it's clear that they are aware, the applicant is aware that they need a permit and did apply for a permit. The case history that's on the staff report is on September 12th. The application was submitted for non-structural permit work for the interior of work, roof replacement and weatherboard replacement. It does not appear that on that permit there was any work associated with the front of the building, and I'll ask the staff, is that correct?
It was not, and that's actually an application retroactively from essentially the 9/7 not heard violation that the staff had worked with the owner to determine that it was not a full 50% reframing of the building.
Okay, so just to clarify, I'm just again asking questions here. So did the applicant ever get a permit for any of the work that was being performed on site prior to the 9/7?
No.
Okay.
I just beg to differ with that. That's why I indicated we had attended an amended complaint, but
I'm going to make this really simple. The public's watching this. If you have contractors on site doing work, you need a permit, and you need a permit, especially this body governs HDLC. anything that's visible from the public right of way has to have a posted certificate of appropriateness. I read it in the opening comments. That's why we read that every time, is to remind the public. It's very clear. Anyone who has a property, owns property, if you purchase a property in a partial of full control, you have to have that there, but you also have to have the review of the demolition as well when you're in a partial district. So I'm a little confused as to why, one, there's just not a building permit on this, but that's not under our purview. That's posted on site. It's not visible in any of these, any of the photos that we can see. You should be able to drive by on the street and see a building permit posted first and foremost. That's not under our jurisdiction today. That's not what we're here to review. This is concerning because this is a lot of restructuring that's happening at the front of a building with very little input from the city. And just as a citizen, that would concern me as a neighbor, that would concern me as a professional, that concerns me in a lot of ways. But again, we're here to review the demolition and retention of the demolition, as well as assess a fine on this. So the two items in front of us are demolition of more than 25% of the primary facade. And the staff is recommending to retain the demolition of more than 25% of the facade. And the second item is that this falls underneath the new fine, the more expensive one, which gets people's attention, which is why we went and requested that the fines get increased, because 1 to 10,000 was not enough to get note. But 1 to, which is, it's 15% of the current assessed building value, which is, just to read it to the public, it's in the staff's report. The current assessed building value on this is $578,400. The fine range is 15% of that, which is $1,000 to $86,760. So again, that is to take note that a property owner understands this, especially if you're in, if you're doing any demolition.
I was about to say, Your Honor, sorry. I have the party who actually owns my client, who did sign a card, would like to have his 2 minutes to address.
Absolutely. And I'm going to call public comment. I just want to make sure it's really clear to the public and the commissioners what we're here to review today. And I appreciate your comments and the time from everybody who's here. So I'm going to go ahead. I have 2 cards that are here. Are you also, you're the owner?
Yes.
Of the property? Please go ahead and step forward and state your name and address for the record.
Mr. Nidal Jabber, 3101 Palmyra Street. First off, I would like to address that, I'm not trying to tell anybody that somebody's lying or telling the truth, but what happened was there was an issue with siding that was, addressed, I think a few months ago. They reached out to us and told us that we did demolition of 50%, which wasn't true. What we did is we resheeted the property, with plywood. That's all we did. And I sent them the pictures, showed them the pictures. And then they came back and they dropped us off the agenda, then we came back and we left it alone. We didn't touch the porch. We didn't do anything with the porch. We completed everything we needed to complete. After that, what I did then was I contacted the contractor, so I want to be very clear that, I've been very, close to the contractor, and told the contractor that I think you might want to reach out, what I'm saying, to safety and permits, and see if we need to amend the permit to see if, we need any additional work for the porch. She reached out to Jay Dufour. They're not showing all the emails, so there should be, I sent them a ton of emails, and then that's when they came and they put the stop work order once I proved to them that I pulled a second permit. So that's not true. There isn't one permit, there is a second permit, and we paid additional money for that permit. And I sent them that email and I sent them the pictures of all of that. So then we reached out to Jay and he says, you know what, just in case, to be on the safe side, go ahead and amend it. So we ended up amending the permit, okay? And we didn't begin right away. Then we got complaints by bikers and walker buyers that the stucco on the glass started falling. So then what we started to do is see if we can salvage the stucco. The stucco cannot be salvaged. When all that was happening, it was during the holiday seasons. There was nobody we could get in touch with. We reached out to him, and I think it was a Daniel that came out or somebody. I can't remember because I don't have the paperwork in front of me, because I didn't know I was here to be fined. I was told that they were going to come and tell us how to re-put it back together, because what I was told was that it was previously enclosed by the other owner, which was illegally done. I don't care if it's enclosed or or disenclosed at this point, you know? I just want to complete the project, you know? It's not about me getting extra space or trying to add extra room like all these other people are doing on Broadway. If it's my choice, I'll leave it open, you know? The problem we have right now is you can see with the pictures that I sent, you know, and I have plenty more. I don't know why they're not up here of where it was all unstructurally sound, the cracking in the stucco that I sent over to them that fell off in the glass, which, you know, they're picking and choosing which pictures they want. You know, I mean, I'm give them whatever they
To
need.
wrap up your comments, I'd like to have a constructive dialogue around this,
Yeah.
but do you have anything else you'd like to
No,
say?
nothing else.
Okay, thank you for your comments. I have a couple of other public speaker cards. I'm going to go ahead and hear, just so that we have all of those out so that I don't miss anybody today. There is one other, I don't know if it's Ron Kowalski, is that? Forgive me if I've mispronounced your last name.
No, you're fine. Thank you. My name is Ron Kowalski. My office is at 900 Camp Street. I'm here mostly actually in a informative capacity. I was hired on or about 12/3, which would be after the stop work order. On information and belief, my understanding of the sequence of events with this was they attempted to begin repairing the stucco, and the front facade was basically collapsing under them. That's what I've been told. The owner immediately called the city inspector, which I know is not representative of HDLC, in an attempt to let him know what's happening. Asked him to amend the permit. They did. I'm not sure or not if there was contact with HDLC after that. Obviously, there was a stop work order issued. I guess my biggest point is I'm not, from what my understanding of the situation is, I'm not convinced it was willful. I'm not convinced they were attempting to skirt the permit process. I think it just may have been a situation that got out of hand, but again, that's interpretation and on things that I've heard from the contractor and the workers.
Thank you. All right, we have Susan Johnson. Do you care to step forward, state your name and address for the record? It's the last public speaker card I have, and if there's any additional public comment, I'll get to you next. Thank you.
Susan Johnson, 2822 LePage Street.
You have 2 minutes.
I'm not paid to be here. So Broadway Street Holdings has been on the radar of the neighborhood for some time now. They bought 6 properties in the past 13 months, 2 from a natural person, including the owner of this building. The other buildings were apparently bought from corporate investor. We've got violations, working without a permit, 7200 South Claiborne. That I think has working without a permit, working without a C of A, probably going to come up next time. Working without a permit here, working without a permit at 2029 Broadway. Judge Bagner says that one of the previous owners is reporting these violations falsely, but I can tell you that as for the building at Plum Street, 7832, I've been reporting that on the basis of neighborhood complaints for at least the past 4 weeks, 6 weeks. There's been interior demolition going on without a permit. And safety and permits is in a blue period. Apparently, they haven't addressed it. So that's another piece of context. I would ask that you exact the maximum fine, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any additional public comments on this application?
Yeah, I would like to say that's not true. 7832, there was no work, just interior paint. Anybody can come over there and look at the property. This is ridiculous.
Forgive me.
There's also a permit for 7200 Clay.
Pardon me. We're here. HDLC Commissioner we're here to review 2220 Broadway. We're not here to review the number of other properties that you have. We're not here to review all the other things that are going on. We We have everything in front of us. We rely very heavily on the staff.
And I appreciate that, but the problem is y'all let her go on and speak about these things.
She's welcome to public comment at
But you
2
just
minutes.
said not on other properties.
They are allowed to, no, it's not that public can make any comments that they want to make under 2 minutes here. They can do it here. They can do it at city council. They can do it any place. It's allowed. You can say whatever you want to say as well, right?
Okay. So I
We
just wanted to make myself clear that we weren't doing any work on
just please
7830.
sit down and listen to us as we start to deliberate this. I appreciate it. Are there any other public comments on this application? I will note to the commissioners, if you see in the report, there are a number of written comments that were also submitted and are in the file. We don't read through all of those, but there are a number on this. We do review them in advance. And if there are any that also come in, they get emailed to us as they come in up until the meeting. So just so everyone's fully aware of that process. On this project, you're in a partial district. We are only reviewing the demolition. This is uptown partial. I'm gonna let the staff, explain, because it's always good to reiterate to the public and to applicants, the demolition and how that's calculated, especially in the partial district. So does one of the staff mind explaining how that's calculated?
So for partial demolition or demolition on the primary front facade, that would be 25%. That's based on the elevation and doing percentage square footages of the elevation.
And if you're looking at the photo from May 10th, 2022, and you were to review the application, because this one has a gallery that was enclosed at a date that's not here for review. You would review the primary facade in terms of the very front facade that you can see in your calculation. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so just based on that really basic fact, and it's 25% demolition or more, and you look at the photo on November 30th, it's very clear that that is more than 25%. And I look to the applicant because that is like a very, without any type of, they use a software where they scale the drawings and are able to go through and they carefully calculate it and they mark it on your drawings. But just on those two photos alone, it is very clear that we have more than 25% demolition on the property, on the primary facade, which is what's in front of us today to review. Just want to make sure that's clear to everybody else. Is there any other questions from commissioners on that? It's very obvious we have more than 25%.
I have just a question for the staff, but it's not related to that percentage discussion.
Go, that's fine. Go ahead. What is your question?
So it looks like it says a non-structural permit was issued on September 12th, 2022 by Safety and Permits for interior work and some weatherboard replacement. And then on November 30th is when the inspection was done by HDLC. Is what I'm to understand is that this work took place in that gap, and that's what caused the HDLC to take action. Like, we didn't expect to have this external facade torn down or removed. Is that, am I picking up what the problem is?
That's why they got a stop work order.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, and so it was, we as in, we didn't feel the need to weigh in on anything with interior work because we don't have purview over that. It's when they started doing the work on the outside structure that it becomes a problem for us.
Correct. And on the primary facade.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
I agree. That's very clear. That was gonna be my next question, Commissioner Green. So that's excellent.
So I have a,
Commissioner Wakeman,
I'm confused about September 7th.
I don't know that is your speaker on? Or
I thought so.
you may have to talk into the mic.
I'm confused about the September 7th application that wasn't heard. And as I read it, the application was for retention of demolition of over 50% of the exterior.
Yes. The application from September was initiated from a neighbor complaint that advised us that there was work going on at the building that included exterior wall demolition. based on the site. As you can see in some of the photos, it's entirely covered in Tyvek, so it's difficult to determine from the street the amount of work that had been done in the absence of drawings. So in coordinating with the applicant, it wasn't until a few days before the meeting that they actually provided drawings, the interior and exterior, where staff could look at it and determine that it was actually below 50%. So that's why at that point, that application was withdrawn from the agenda and was not heard because it didn't rise to the level of partial demolition.
And so it did not address the front facade at all.
It did not, but it was an opportunity for the current applicant and the owner to work with staff. They were aware of the need to go to the commission if they had passed the 50%. So I think once they moved beyond that towards the facade work, there should have been an understanding that HDLC approval would also be required.
Commissioner Bressler.
I had a few questions for the staff. So this project is just changing the look of the front of the building. It's not changing the scope of the building. The use, it's not adding space. There's no conversion. This isn't the dorms to,
That's
double
also not under our purview,
I
just
know
as
it's
a
not.
reminder to the commission.
I was just wanted to confirm that. The second thing is, sounds like that so that they changed the look of the front. If they had come to you all on a timely basis before they changed it, would you all have approved it? And because
I don't think it would have been recommended, because essentially I think their proposal was to remove the stucco and replace it with like a weatherboard siding, but the stucco itself and the qualities of it are the historic material that, would be what's being removed to be replaced or encapsulated by siding. So I don't know if it would be staff recommended, but the request was never before us to kind of research it before.
But does this have anything to do with the, I guess that front porch or the,
No, the trick is, so this isn't a partial district. And we only have review of what gets demolished, right? So when you look at the image in the middle from May 10th, the staff reviews based on the percentage calculations and review and, that's what gets reviewed. It's not about the use, the enclosure of the second floor, how any of it goes back. If the applicant were to do additional enclosure of this space, that's again, the demolition has been completed at this point. Basically HDLC's review is done. Like this is the last step. There's no coming back. So if they went back and enclosed the first floor porches, that would be in front of the city in terms of review for structural work. But is not necessarily, that's not going to come back in front of HDLC.
what actually is the 25% then? Is that the downstairs part of the?
So that's what I was saying. If you look at the image in the middle, the May 10th image, everything where there's stucco on the front, there's the windows at the top, the enclosed porch on the front. The applicant has removed all of that without consulting the city and notifying them of has not gotten a C of A from HDLC for the demolition work. And so with that, what we're looking at right now is that in its current state, I assume, which is November 30th, hopefully work has not been done. It looks like they boarded up a little bit on the front, but November 30th, that's the image we're looking at in terms of what's left. So what's in front of us to review is, did the applicant demolish the front without reviewing it with HDLC? The answer is very clearly yes from the staff report. They don't have it approved. What's in front of us is it more than 25%? I asked the commissioners to look at this. I don't vote. I'm just stating that, if you look at the image on the middle and the image to the right, you can see very clearly that it does look like more than 25%. If you were to look at it, I don't know what the exact percentage would be calculated or if that has been calculated. The answer is it more than 25% or not? And I think the answer to that is yes. And then what's in front of us today is the demolition has occurred. The staff is recommending that they are allowed to retain the demolition because obviously, as we saw with Webster and other cases that have come in front of us, it's demolished, it's over. What are you going to do to put it back at this point? Again, we're not in a full control district. We can't ask them to go and work with staff on what gets put back. So they are recommending retaining the demolition of more than 25% of the primary facade. And what's in front of us, which is the heavy decision on the commission today, and is probably the first one we've seen in front of us under the 15% that has been in place since August 1 of, I would say, a substantial number, is a fine to be assessed between $1,000 and $86,760, which is 15% of the current assessed building value.
That was my other question, is on the fine, the 15%, if they had torn the whole house down, then 100% demolition, then, you could certainly look at the 15% of the full value, but if it's just a facade, how do you?
That's up to the commission.
That's up to the
Well, I
commission.
think that's important that we
So
figure out.
it's a good, it's,
Yeah.
that's a good conversation, because if the building had been leveled, right, and we were, or significantly, highly modified, right, then 86,760 would be the most we could assess as a commission. I think it's just, that's what we need to look at. It's like, how much is this worth in terms of a fine of the percentage on the front facade that we're reviewing that's been demolished? Commissioner Hackenberg.
Yeah, I know when we were with the $10,000 fine range, we were finding the maximum quite often, and it was routinely being overturned by city council and reduced. So I think we need to be very kind of judicious in how we apply standards. I agree with you, Commissioner Bressler, that I kind of would reserve the highest number for a complete demolition. And sort of start working backwards and looking at different conditions. The lack of proper permits would be a factor in this. As well as it being the primary facade. I think that's a significant.
And I'd like to add one thing to that as far as something that we should consider is that this was already, the issue had already been raised with this owner back in September of 2022 about the issue of needing a certificate of appropriateness for the work they're doing because there was some work that was done without a certificate of appropriateness. That was just in September of 2022. So I would think that like moving forward, they wouldn't want to, fail to get a certificate of appropriateness for the continued work.
And Commissioner Green, I agree with you. I think we need to be really clear, because all this is publicly televised and recorded. It's also highly considered if the applicant appeals to city council and the discussion that goes in front of the council member and the work that the staff's doing. That, we're not here to, we can't assess fines based on whether we think or believe or somebody is a bad actor or they have other properties or any of that kind of stuff. It's literally just based on what has happened. And so I think we need to carefully apply a number to this in terms of on a primary facade, it's weighted because it is the front facade. And given the amount of fabric that has been removed, what we can assess. So.
I had another question for the,
Yes. Please speak into the microphone.
In the middle picture, where you have the enclosure of the top of the top of the porch. In the first picture, there is no enclosure. My point simply is that the former owner enclosed, I think it was in 2009, if you look at the history of it, enclosed that particular porch. He did that without the HDLC's permission. We come in, we remove a violation. And right now, you see there's no enclosure, no intent right now to put an enclosure up. We're restoring it back to what it originally was, or to phrase it another way, what it historically was. And my client's owner is getting penalized for putting the building back in the original historic shape it was in. And not only that, he's being addressed, or a fine is being considered because that 25% had to include that portion that has been demolished.
Respectfully, disagree with that. Your client is not being, again, we're in a partial control district. We only have review of the demolition. We do not review what goes back in its place. So whether your client intends to put it back to its original character or not, we don't review that at HDLC, not in a partial district. That's what's called a full control district. So that happens in Treme, Marigny, Bywater, other full control districts, right? So the staff has the opportunity to comment on both demolition and what goes back in its place. So to that point, then we would be looking at what's happening back there. Your client has purchased a building in its current state with that porch enclosed at whatever date it was enclosed. We do not know what's going back in its place at this point and cannot review that. But the building was purchased with it enclosed, and that's what would be reviewed by HDLC.
Even though the enclosure was a violation.
Correct. And I'll let them clarify. I personally went back on Google Earth or Google Maps to look at this too. But will the staff explain the violation that was previously put on there?
This building, or this district didn't become a district until 2016. So that work was done previous to this even being a district. So it would not have been under our purview.
And from just for it appears this was 2014, or it was done quite a while ago. But regardless, the owner has purchased the building in its current, with that, whether they choose to go back and enclose that space or not. Again, we're looking at the demolition only, and that's how it is assessed. And that's why I asked the questions of staff when they get the drawings, or if they'd gotten the photo and they calculated the percentage, would they have calculated it with the front portion at the second floor enclosed? The answer to that is yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Another question for staff. Would you all
Commissioner
have
Pressler.
approved that enclosure or?
We would not have reviewed it.
That-
We would not have reviewed it. It's partial control, so we don't
No, but
review new
trying
construction.
to- If it was after, if they were trying to enclose after it became part of the,
We don't, it's partial control, so, right, we only would review what was being removed. If they had proposed removing what they've removed, is that what you're asking?
no, they're proposing. Right, if during this today, if the picture on the left was when they bought it and then they added the thing in the middle, would that have been approved? Well, don't we have to approve facade changes?
No,
No,
not
not
in
in
the
all.
partial control,
partial-
only the demolition. So,
No, so, yeah, partial control districts again. Only for demolition. Full control districts, everything you can see from the street. Landmark buildings, everything that touches the air. Much more like BCC. Commissioner Bruno.
Thank you. I have a question about your conversations with Jay Dufour on the 2 days that you mentioned. At any time when you were changing your permit and expanding it, at any point did he say you need to take this to the HDLC?
I'm sorry, I made it clear to them that, yes, we reached out to him. I sent them a whole thread of emails. It was about 20 pages going back and forth. And we let them know specifically what we were gonna do. Now, when we were doing it, we got caught, during the weekend, where everything was torn down. So we couldn't get to it. So then they showed up, I think it was either Monday morning, and said, hey, you just gotta stop, put a work order. And then I can't remember who it was. Nice guy, he came out. I have all my notes at home. I didn't know I was gonna go through all this, like I said again, but what they told us was to just wait and just come to the hearing and we'll tell you what you can put back on. And my guys completely stopped everything. They didn't do anything. They weren't trying to put anything back. And the wood that you see, that, just so we can be clear, that's not being rebuilt. That's to actually hold that. They told us to put that up there to brace the property so it wouldn't collapse. So we braced it. So I just want to make sure that everybody knows that that's not a new wall. That's a brace holding the property in place. It's not a new wall. But to answer your question, no, Jay did not. That's what I'm saying. Nobody didn't tell us anything. And they keep saying that we knew about it from before. I knew nothing about, that, I had to go and approach them later on. Once I found out this problem happened, it happened on a weekend.
But I think regardless of whether, I'm sorry, Commissioner Bruno. You want to, well, I don't know that a conversation. It's not on one person at the city of New Orleans to instruct an owner, a property owner, a contractor, anything about a specific, how to follow the rules and construct in the city. There's some history. It's clear, HDLC has been involved reviewing stuff. You're in a partial district. You really know you're in a partial district now. And you need a building permit when you're doing construction work in New Orleans. Your team clearly has demonstrated that, in terms of applying for permits and doing other stuff that's on this application. You're right, you got caught. You took stuff down when you weren't supposed to do it without
No,
everyone.
that's not what I said. So please don't say that. I didn't say I got caught. What I
Forgive me,
specifically
you did
said,
just say
it
you got
happened
caught
on
on the
the weekend. He
weekend.
showed up on Monday.
You
Not caught. You
did
make
in
it
your
sound like I
comments, you
did
did say
something.
that you got caught on the weekend.
No, I'm done. Thank you.
Okay. It's all televised and recorded. It's fine. It can be reviewed. But I will say that on this, again, if we can can we stick to assessing a fine? I want to bring it back to like all the commissioners, any questions you're asking or how you're addressing this, if we can really look at the percentage that's been demolished and assess a fine based on that and keep it to that. And not really on any of these projects, whether people are bad actors or not. We've seen it all. We see it all. We'll see it again next month. That's how this goes. Yeah. So Commissioner Bruno, you said you have more questions.
I had a question. At some point, either Judge Magnaris or the other folks mentioned that they wanted to make it right. You know, you want to do whatever you could to make it right. What would making it right be in this case? That's for the staff.
And I'm gonna just one more time reiterate, this
If-
commission has no review of what goes back in its place.
I'm just answering the
Okay.
question. We would do whatever it is. If you want it like it originally was open, we leave it open. If you want it like it was when he purchased enclosed, we'll enclose it. We're not trying to get away with anything. We want to do whatever it is the body, the staff, the board believes ought to be done to this, even though I know what your authority is. We're going to do whatever it is that you all want to do. We're not trying to, sneak something in. Like I said earlier, we were just, the HDLC certificate of appropriateness was a lack of knowledge about its necessity. And I know the old phrase about you're presumed always to know the law. All right. But practically speaking, this is what it is. We just want to we would like to have the historic look. I thought that this board would like to have a historic look, but look like we're going to get fined, for bringing about a historic look.
We would like to see the historic look, which is why your district is a partial control district, an uptown partial control district where we have review of what's currently there. So yes, when given the opportunity by an owner to review the application in its appropriate form, yes, we love to weigh in on that. That is what we're all here for. That's what this whole commission volunteers, staff, this is what they spend all their time doing. Yes, that is exactly it. That's why everyone went to bat to make Uptown a partial control district, because we were losing too much historic fabric. You are 100% correct. That's what we're here for. But past that, right now, what's in front of us is a fine, because that's what we also, having seen all of this, sat on committees. Eleanor spent all the time at the state going to do this, moving forward to make sure that we have a higher fine range, because unfortunately money is the only thing that gets people's attention. It brings out all the council. You're here, 3 people are here from the project. Sometimes when we were at $1,000 to $10,000, no one showed up to have that reviewed. But man, $86,000 is scary, right? No one wants to pay $86,000. Owner shaking.
We had no knowledge, coming here had no knowledge about $86,000 or even a fine or anything of that nature being entertained. That's why we were coming here. I thought, I thought that when you saw that.
Here to retain the demolition and to assess a fine. That's what we're here today to do.
Yeah, but the demolition, the only way you get the original look is by demolishing the old one.
Again, the only way to do construction in the city of New Orleans, get permits, right?
We got a
Get
permit.
permits, talk to HDLC. This is the way it works. We can respectfully agree. Look, we're going to move on. We've spent a lot of time on this case. I would like to ask the commissioner
Thank you.
to button up. If somebody can make a motion and do a second, we can keep it to internal commissioner comments. I feel like we have enough information on the table to do that. This is in Uptowns. It's Bruno. I know that no one wants to this is the first one.
So,
No, this is Uptown.
I'd be willing to make a motion.
Absolutely, Commissioner Wakeman.
And
Bruno wants to make one too. Oh, wow. Everybody's ready.
we're all ready.
Okay.
And I, before I make my motion, I just want to make a comment that I'm sure the judge knows that ignorance is no defense under the law. But given the fact that this is a demolition of more than 25% of the facade, I would like to make a motion that we fine 25% of the allowable amount, which
And-
according to my computer.
And that we retain allow them to retain the demolition.
and we allow them to retain the demolition. And according to my calculator, that would come to $21,690.
Thank you. Commissioner Wakeman has a motion on the floor. I'm gonna look to Commissioner Bruno.
I would like to revise that fine downward because I feel as though there was communication with the city. They were not told again to talk to the HDLC about their degree of demolition. They've asked what they can do to make it right now. And I feel that those are sort of mitigating factors. So I would only probably fine them $10,000.
Okay, Commissioner Bruno, I'm gonna ask you hard questions too. So it's very clear that you're saying that you would reduce the fine to $10,000 based on two items. One, because they had communication with the city of New Orleans, someone, right? And two, that they're asking to make it right. I'm gonna ask you as a commissioner who sits on all this stuff. The second thing about them doing it right, we don't have jurisdiction about what this looks like when it goes back. So again, I just want to make sure as this moves forward, we have strong reasoning as to why we're reducing fines or proposing those fines.
Yes, I think that it's an indication though of their mindset and their intentions. I think intentions matter in this case.
Okay. Commissioner Green,
Do we need a second for the motion that was
you
made?
do.
Sorry, I didn't want us to get distracted with.
That's
two
fine. I
different-
was, yeah.
You know, I'm a rules person.
I know,
Like,
I was hoping Bruno would second, and then she threw me a curveball, so it's okay.
Okay,
Maybe we could come somewhere in the middle.
So I can't vote. I will tell you that my is it somebody want a second? If there's anybody that wants a second, Commissioner Hackenberg wants the second.
Yeah, that was about the number I was
Hold on,
considering
please keep
as
keep
being,
conversation.
as being proper in this situation.
So Commissioner Hackenberg wants the second Commissioner Wakeman's motion of 25% of the assessed building value. I can't vote. I had a similar number on my calculator with Commissioner Wakeman earlier in this. We can amend the motion. Commissioner Bruno is recommending that we amend the motion to a lower fine closer to 10,000, or I just heard her say potentially meet in the middle. Yep. So I will let commissioners discuss that, and if anybody wants to amend it, Commissioner Bressler.
I had a question for the city attorney. If we do a vote, we have 10 folks? How many votes do you have to have to, it would be 7?
Can you repeat that question?
Yeah, or maybe this is for Eleanor. How many votes, if we have a split vote, what's the, how many do you need to pass?
Our quorum is 8. We have to have 8 votes in order to pass a motion.
Okay. And then I guess, I agree with Ms. Bruno that, 21,000 I think is too high. But for different reasons. It's if they had cut off 25% of the building and tore it down, then yes, the facade is an important part. But I don't know that the look is that much different. It's not like they totally changed everything and made it look out of character. So the fact that it's the facade on a square foot basis is probably 2% of it. I think that's too low, but I think we have to take into account how much of the building, how much of the value of the building was demolished. And I think 10,000 is actually a little high in this situation, but I would support that.
I've got all the commissioners want to talk, so this is great. Thank you, Commissioner Bressler, Commissioner Hackenberg, and Commissioner Clark.
I seconded the higher fine. I believe, one, this is the primary facade of the building, which should be given more weight. If someone cuts off the entire front, 25% of the building, including the front facade, beautiful front facade, we're gonna take that a lot more seriously than they take off 25% off that.
Forgive me,
And-
Commissioner Red is asking, she's saying it's very hard at the end of the table for them to hear. If y'all can clearly speak into the mics, lean it a little bit more right now, they would appreciate it down there.
All right, so I think
Yeah.
it should be weighed heavier because it's the front facade. The issue of a lack of proper permits, even if there was communication, I think, as he said, it isn't the job of city officials to instruct everyone on how to follow all the rules. They're supposed to know the rules. They're professionals working in the city. I would expect a general contractor to know how to file for a permit. And to fact that, you know, this was done. I mean, the entire front facade is pretty well gone. So I support the higher level, given those circumstances.
Commissioner Clark.
Just agree with Commissioner Hectorberg, as those are the points I was gonna make, but I think also the in this particular case, maybe it looks more historic, we would have gone back to, but that's not always going to be the case, and I don't want to set a precedent that and we don't have jurisdiction over that anyway, in this case, so it's only about the demolition, so it's like they should not have demolished it, they should not, they knew they needed to get a certificate of appropriateness, they had just gone through that in September.
And the strength of this
And so
commission.
that's what we need to make
Yeah.
sure that we have a higher fine.
Just want to make sure everybody's only just review the stuff that's in front of us. You can't review what goes back there. Again, people who own again, if you're watching this, get a permit, talk to the city. If you think it's gonna fall over, talk to the city. If the chimney falls off, take a photo, talk to the city. It's not that hard. They're there. They work all the time. You know, we do it. It's not that hard. So, thank you. Okay, so we got Commissioner Hackenberg, Commissioner Clark. I'm gonna ask, I guess we've got a motion on the floor and a second, Commissioner Green. I'm looking at you two. I just want to see, so it doesn't sound like Commissioner Wakeman wants to amend her current motion on the floor, so we're gonna call a vote. Is there any additional public comment? No additional public comment. All those in favor? We'll roll call this one. All those in favor of the current motion that's on the floor? Eleanor, or I can call roll call if you'd like. You got it.
I'm happy to do it.
Thank you.
Can you state the motion again, please?
The motion on the floor is to allow for the retention of the demolition and assess a fine of 25% of the fine range, which I don't have my calculator out. Commissioner Wakeman.
Or does somebody else have it handy? I have $21,690.
And that is based on,
That's based on, that's 25, my calculator says that's 25% of 86,700.
correct. And everybody's handing me Post-it, so it appears that's the correct number. Okay,
Okay, Anne Red. Jennifer Green. Yes. Stephanie Bruno. Jason King. Lee Bressler. Greg Hackenberg,
Yes.
Annie Clark,
Yes.
Donna Wakeman,
Yes.
Io Love,
Yes.
Heather Safari.
Yes.
That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 votes.
yes,
The chair would need to vote.
I will vote with the majority, which is traditional.
Jenny West votes with the majority, making it 8-3. The motion passes.
Okay, I appreciate. So the applicant being here for a while, going through everything. I really appreciate the commissioners for having a dialogue around this. I know it's late. Thank you to everyone for that. To the applicant, so we voted to approve the demolition of the application and levy a fine of $21,690, which is 25% of that. Again, your application, I'm going to read, you obviously have the right to appeal within 10 calendar days from the date of this meeting to appeal to city council in writing. The staff will furnish you with the details of that appeals process.
How do I go about getting a transcript of these proceedings?
It is publicly televised. It's also recorded and online.
The link to the YouTube video will be added under the meetings tab of our website sometime this week.
Can I get notified?
It's, forgive me, it's under Granicus. Is that correct? It's usually,
Actually, Granicus was supposed to be back online and turns out it was not functioning, so we switched mid-meeting to YouTube.
Okay.
And this portion will be available via the YouTube link that's posted on our website in the next couple of days.
thank you. So the staff can provide you with the appeals process as well as share the link where the video is located or pointing the direction. Yep. Oh, staff. Thank you and good luck with your project. Okay. Again, thank you to the commissioners for discussion, deliberation. Again, we're able to have, it's good that we had so many commissioners show up today, which is great, because we were also able to have, the conversation, which is good. Okay, ratification of Architectural Review Committee and staff action since December 7th, 2022. Do we have a motion to ratify the actions? Commissioner Hackenberg, we have a second? Commissioner King, all those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. HDLC reports and communication. I also would like to introduce the city attorney who's sitting with us today. I'm sorry I didn't get a chance to talk to you before the meeting. I don't know your name. I'm sorry.
Well, all right, there we go. My name is Jose Mendez.
Thank you. Welcome. Thank you. I'm sorry I didn't get a chance to say hello before the meeting and introduce you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Is there any other staff and communications?
We did not have a report today.
Thank you. Happy New Year, everybody. With that, I think we can adjourn the meeting. We'll see you next month.